Hi everyone. This is the voice behind the noise. And I am Myron. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine have become more difficult since Russia withdrew its troops from Kyiv. Judging from the current situation, Russia is reducing military operations and wants to achieve strategic goals in the negotiations, while the Ukrainian army has begun to stabilize its position under the attack of the Russian army. How should the future war situation develop? Are large-scale battles unavoidable? With a favorable situation, how much leverage will Ukraine gain for itself? Well, that and more is exactly what we are going to talk in this video. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said recently that Ukraine will not discuss the content of Ukraine's demilitarization and de-Nazification in the Ukraine-Russia negotiations. He also said that Ukraine is ready to join NATO. On April 10, Ukraine's chief negotiator, Arakamia, said there had been no significant progress in the negotiations. "We're not going to give up any territory, and we're not going to recognize anything," he said. There are certain practical reasons behind Ukraine's sudden toughness in the negotiations. On the one hand, the threat of the capital has been temporarily lifted, and Russia is facing serious diplomatic and economic difficulties internationally, all of which give Ukraine a certain degree of confidence. It is believed that Russia is likely to be an arrow at the end of its flight, and it can't do anything about Ukraine. At this time, if they negotiate again, Ukraine will naturally have to bargain. The various conditions put forward by the Russian army under the pressure of the situation are naturally unwilling to agree. Podolyak, an advisor to the Ukrainian president's office, claimed that Ukraine must repel Russia in areas such as the Donbass in order to hold a meeting between Zelensky and Putin. Russia has previously said that a meeting between Putin and Zelensky would only be possible if the two countries worked out a specific written document. In addition, Podolyak said in a program broadcast on TV, Ukraine is ready for large-scale battles. Ukraine must win these battles, including in the Donbass region. Once this is achieved, Ukraine will have a stronger negotiating position. After that, the presidents of Russia and Ukraine will meet. It may take 2 to 3 weeks. Podolyak said. Obviously, after the withdrawal of Russian troops from Kyiv and the entry of NATO weapons into Ukraine, the attitude of the Ukrainian side has changed dramatically. They also began to haggle over the negotiations, and even wanted to win the big battle against Russia in Donbass and other places before opening the meeting between the presidents of the two countries. According to Ukrainian media, the Russian army continued to fire on the Kharkiv, Donetsk, Luhansk and Kherson areas on the night of the 9th. On the same day, the governor of Russia's Kursk Oblast, Staroboyt, said that a border checkpoint near the Glushkov district of the oblast was attacked by mortars from the Ukrainian side that night, causing no casualties or damage to buildings. Both Russia and Ukraine were accusing the other of firing on themselves, and then both sides began to fight back. No matter who fired first, it is certain that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues. At present, the Ukrainian army has begun to stabilize its position under the attack of the Russian army, rather than the time when the Russian-Ukrainian conflict broke out. What's more, the Ukrainian army has already begun to attack the Russian army. The attack on the Russian border checkpoint is one example of this. This shows that the Ukrainian army has indeed improved its combat power after receiving a large number of NATO weapons, which gave Ukraine great confidence, and even began to madly claim to win Russia, and it was within 3 weeks. However, in the current battle, although the combat strength of the Ukrainian army has improved, it has not achieved any decent results. It is still in a defensive posture, and the Russian army is still in a state of active attack. In reality, the possibility of Ukraine defeating Russia in a local war is very small, but the Ukrainian side statement shows that they will fight to the end. To put it bluntly, the negotiations are put aside first. Ukraine needs more bargaining chips and wants to get it from the battlefield. In contrast, Russia's attitude is to reduce military operations and achieve its own strategic goals in negotiations. Now, the negotiation is unable to reach any effective agreement. It is obvious that Russia has been delayed by Ukraine. Due to the poor performance of the Ukrainian army in the previous rounds of negotiations, the capital Kyiv was besieged, so Ukraine's attitude is still positive. Now that the situation has improved, it is directly that the attitude has changed greatly. In this regard, Russia will inevitably make corresponding countermeasures in the follow-up. Needless to say, diplomatic accusations are conventional means. In the military, Russia must make achievements. Otherwise, let alone peace negotiations with Ukraine, whether the Russian army can successfully withdraw is a problem. Only the Russian army achieves some commendable victories, or once again destroys Ukraine's confidence in resisting the Russian army, it is estimated that it will be able to bring it back to the negotiating table. If the battlefield cannot be effectively advanced for a long time, the two sides will fall into a continuous stalemate, and the advantages accumulated by the Russian army through previous military operations will be lost. It is even possible to get caught in the quagmire of the Ukrainian war and unable to extricate itself. This is also the situation that the United States and Western countries are most willing to see, that is, Russia will continue to bleed in Ukraine and continue to weaken it. Therefore, the next conflict between Russia and Ukraine is likely to expand again. After all, Ukraine wants to win the next game to get enough bargaining chips, and Russia also needs to win cleanly to prompt Ukraine to sit down and negotiate. Both sides have the necessity to win, which is bound to allow both sides to continuously increase their military strength on the front line, and then conduct a local decisive battle. This battle, which is related to the direction of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, is expected to start soon. It can be expected that the battle will be very tragic. After all, both sides are bound to win this battle. At present, the advantage is still in the hands of the Russian army. After all, no amount of aid weapons can make up for the gap between Russia and Ukraine, not to mention that Russia has supersonic weapons and nuclear bombs, which have long been invincible. Okay, that's all for today. See you in the next video.